Hello and welcome to the Mojo Story. I'm Barkha Dutt. One thing is clear: Donald Trump as president doesn't just mean that America will not be the same again, the world will not be the same again. In a slew of executive decisions taken by Donald Trump within hours of him becoming US president, among them is America pulling out from the WHO, America leaving the climate change talks, Trump shutting down the diversity and inclusion programs that are run by the federal government, and also closing down birthright citizenship. This last one will be most keenly watched by Indians and Indian Americans. That's our big focus today as we look at what the Trump presidency means for India. India and the United States of America have for long held a relationship that many believe is now on an even keel, that it doesn't really matter whether it's the Republicans who are at the helm of government or it is the Democrats. But there are also Indians who believe that the Republicans have typically been better for India and India's interests. And Trump, in particular, is known to enjoy a close personal rapport with the Prime Minister. But Trump is expected to also be fully transactional. And as he declared at his inauguration, put America first. He's already talking about 100% tariff rates against BRICS nations, including India, if there's any attempt to replace the dollar. There's a lot to talk about as we ask on the broadcast this evening: is Trump good for India? Let me introduce our guests on the program today, if we can please bring them up. Joining me now is Prasad Duvvuri. Prasad, of course, is an entrepreneur, the promoter of the Greater Good Snacking Company. Good to see you, Prasad, based out of the United States of America. Veteran diplomat, Ambassador Dilip Sinha, is with us. Welcome back, sir. Always a pleasure. Sreenivasan, who's, of course, a friend, a college mate, but also the CEO of Digimentors based out of New York City, is with us. Good to see you, Sree. Also, it's good to have back with us Anang Mittal. He's a communication strategist, a very important voice today, given how much the world of big tech seems to have thrown its weight behind Donald Trump. We'll find out how Anand looks at those developments. And also joining us is strategic affairs analyst, senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, Sushant. Sareen, Sushant, we're seeing you after ages. It's good to have you with us. Let me actually get started with you, Sushant. Trump, good for India? Net, as they say in India, or do you have some concerns?
No, I don't really have any major concerns. There are going to be the usual, ups and downs which happen in a relationship. There will be some issues on trade and tariff. This whole nonsense about 100% tariff on BRICS. Number one, Trump needs to know what BRICS countries are all about. Number two, I think India has already disabused everybody of the notion that there's going to be a BRICS currency. A BRICS currency, what is it going to be? The yuan? Are we so stupid that we want to replace the dollar with the yuan and give the Chinese a big lead over us, which they already enjoy anyways? So I don't see how there's going to be a BRICS currency anytime soon, how the dollar is going to be replaced. So some of what Trump says is, typical. His, it's a kind of a negotiating stance. He's trying to browbeat the other side. I think it's extremely important from our point of view, although I think given the kind of politics that happens in India, everybody's going to start taking digs. We've seen things like that on social media already. Why was Modi not invited? That somebody was asking Jaishankar to go out. The kind of stupid nonsense which goes on in our political space. But if we can get over that, I don't think we need to have a knee-jerk reaction to everything Trump says. There is stuff which he's going to say in public and the business which he's going to do in private. Again, I don't see him as unpredictable. I see him as unconventional. And if
You don't see him as unpredictable, because that's the word most often used for him. You're saying
not
he's
at
not,
all
he can be could you
unpredictable, he's
predict it?
very unconventional. Look, Barkha, he does not use the normal diplomatic niceties which everybody is so used to. That nonsense about your excellency, your majesty, etc., etc. He doesn't do all of that.
Yeah.
He's like a typical garden variety American, although a very, very rich American. And if there are people from the US out here, I'm not. I
Yeah.
just visited the US a couple of times. But there are many Americans you meet who are like in your face, who are normal, regular people in your face. But that's the way they talk. That's the way, so what you're getting into with Donald Trump. He's going to say stuff, and you need to have a bit of a thick skin that in private you will do the business with him. If you can manage that, I don't see any major problem. On strategic issues, I think there is a lot of convergence, but I think we need to be prepared for some amount of pressure coming our way. We've tried to hedge our bets. We've tried to have this strategic autonomy. We've tried to balance out a couple of things. We don't want to go entirely into the American camp for very, very valid reasons. But I think there will be certain pressures which are going to come on that, especially if, for example, if Trump is going to turn the screws on Iran, for example, how are we going to play that? If, for example, on the Russia thing, I think there will be a bit of an easing going forward. But if on China, he wants us to get into a much closer, maybe for want of a better word, I'll let Ambassador Sinha use the diplomaties. But if he wants us to get into some kind of a closer alliance arrangement of sorts, how are we going to play that thing out? So there will be those issues, but that's the normal rough and tumble of diplomacy. So beyond that, I'm not forcing anything major. Or again, just one more point, on this whole business of citizenship rights, H-1B visas. Look, at one level, there's been a misuse of some of those things. Barkha, I'm sure you also know of a lot of people, pregnant women who would go for 2 or 3 months so that they could have the child in the United States and, use that as some kind of a way to get an American passport. We know that is happening. We know a lot of misuse has happened even on the H-1B visas. But if you remove all of that, I think the trained professionals will continue to find space in the United States. There will again be the normal noises in the US, but beyond that, if the US has to do business, I think that stuff is going to continue. But again, we can't claim that the Americans should open the door and not send back all illegal immigrants. If they are going to send back illegal immigrants, I think we should receive them. Some of them will be Khalistanis, so we should probably build a few jails so we can keep these buggers out here. And the rest of them will be people who come. There is no way we can defend illegal immigration taking place from India and saying that the Americans have to keep them. I don't see how we can do that, but we can also use that to throw out some of the illegal immigrants who've come into our own country.
Okay, so you've made a lot of different points, but you've helped frame the conversation for us, talking about illegal immigrants from India into the US. Bloomberg reports that India is considering and has identified 18,000 illegal migrants from India to the US and is willing to repatriate them. Again, no independent confirmation of this. This is reported by Bloomberg earlier today, picked up by a lot of the international media. Talking about Khalistanis, there were images also, Sushant, you would have seen them, of Gurpatwan Pannu at the heart of a case between, or some friction between India and the US. Well-known Khalistani probably purchasing a ticket to one of these events and then raising pro-Khalistan slogans that only he and his camera and the two people with him heard, but nevertheless, he was right there. Now, before I come to Ambassador Sinha, the birthright citizenship and the H-1B question has got the most amount of, I would say, attention. There's a lot of heartburn over it. There's a lot of questions about 1 million Indians in the green card queue. What happens to children born from those who are legally living in India on work visas, for instance, not pregnant women or couples who go there just to have their child in America? What happens to them? This is what Trump said on H-1B visas. Take a look.
Well, I like both sides of the argument, but I also like very competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people that may not have the qualifications they do. But I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about engineers. I'm talking about people at all levels. We want competent people coming into our country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high quality waiters. You got to get the best people. Now, then you go into people like Larry, and he needs engineers, and Masa needs, and this gentleman needs engineers like nobody's ever needed engineers, right? So we have to have the quality people coming in. Now, by doing that, we're expanding businesses, and that takes care of everybody. So I'm sort of on both sides of the argument, but what I really do feel is that we have to let really competent people, great people come into our country, and we do that through the H-1 program.
Ambassador Sinha, now maitre d's and highly qualified restaurant managers or waiters are not using the H-1B, but certainly 20% or more of H-1B visas have been used by Indian technology companies in the past year. How concerned should we be that essentially Trump in his America First push is basically saying children born to those who are working and living on legal H-1B visas will not be citizens automatically? This could also mean that their families may choose to come back also home. This could, as I said, impact hundreds of thousands of Indians. How do you see it? And is it our problem? Let me be provocative here and say, how concerned should India be about those who are wanting to migrate out of India?
Well, I would agree entirely with Sushant over here. Yes, there are a lot of people wanting to migrate to the US. I think we should be concerned about talented people leaving India. Just as Trump says that he needs these people, I think we need these people as well. And I think our concern should be to frame policies to ensure that we attract the world's best talents ourselves and hold on to our talents and also attract investment. No country has developed by letting its best talents go out of the country and letting its own investment go out of the country. So I don't think I would be concerned at all about this. This is the problem of the people who think that they have to go and get a better life in America. If they do it, well and good luck to them. But they should not expect that government of India should be using all its political capital to get them these facilities. And if Trump sends back any Indians, as we have, I think, already announced, that we will be quite happy. We always take back our people once they establish that they are Indians, whether they have gone out legally or illegally. They are welcome back in India. But our concern should really be on to ensure that we hold on to our talent and give them an opportunity to grow in India rather than worrying about and getting them out of the country. So, but there are 2 points that I'd like to mention over here that as Sushant mentioned, the concern about BRICS and about tariffs. Now, these are 2 areas that are a matter of concern, but Trump also opens up an opportunity for us on both climate change and on tariffs. We have been very averse to any kind of international pressure upon us challenging or questioning our national autonomy and our policies to promote our national development. So the fact that he has attacked these 2 points gives us a window of opportunity, maybe for the next 4 years or so, for us to frame the policies and take advantage of this situation where we will not be under pressure.
Are there any alarm bells ringing in your head, Ambassador Sinha?
Well, the alarm bells are there. The fact is that BRICS is a term that some of the American senators and all have grasped. Whether they understand it or not is a different matter. The fact is that they look upon it as an anti-American alliance or a grouping of countries. And also the fact that we do have a trade surplus with America, one of the few countries with which we have a trade surplus. So we'll have to address these 2 concerns to ensure that Trump does not take any kind of penal action against us because of these 2 factors.
Sreenivasan, you are, of course, not a Trump fan, but as an Indian American who's an American citizen, what are your concerns? What are your concerns today from the other side of the political trenches?
I was going to react first to 2 sets of phrases that you said. The tech titans have thrown their weight behind Trump. They've actually sold their soul to Trump and the Trump universe in ways that have been shocking to see in the last few years. Second is that we heard the word, is he unpredictable? Trump is not just unpredictable, he is unprecedented and unconstitutional in so many ways. And if you look at the birthright citizenship, it's been enshrined in the Constitution for 150 years. This is not something that just suddenly came up as some DEI woke thing from a few years ago that many of my colleagues on the panel will attribute to anything that they don't like. This is something that's at the heart of the American experience.
And 22 American states have challenged his diktat. It's important to say that also.
And you're going to see lots of pushback on this. And I think that what just to be clear to the audience, what's happening right now is that for the next 30 days. That's anybody, that while this is being implemented. So there's not going backwards. There have been fake stories about Usha Vance not being, might lose her citizenship, or Vivek Ramaswamy might lose his citizenship. It's not going backward, it's going forward. So that's where, so if someone is pregnant right now, an Indian American who's pregnant right now, a husband and wife who are a couple who are expecting on an H-1B, this is going to affect them. See, the rhetoric, this is what's so upsetting. The rhetoric of MAGA, the rhetoric of Trump and Vance and everyone else was that they're going to go after undocumented people. But instead, they're going also after legal immigration. Their goal is to prevent brown and black people from migrating here. They will eventually make it much easier for Europeans to move here and not have black and brown people. That's the thing that we don't talk enough about. The other thing that is also important to note, that India said they'll take back 18,000 illegal immigrants, right? Undocumented.
Yeah, not officially attributed to Bloomberg.
Yeah, the story says that. You're right. But the estimates are between 225,000 and 725,000 undocumented.
Illegal, undocumented?
Undocumented, 725,000. So we're talking about a tiny percentage if they're taken back. And this is all part of the conversation happening now. But what happens to the soul of America, the character of America, how it's going to be changed? And we all have to pay attention. The last part about India that we should care about as Americans and as Indians watching the show is WHO, the Paris Accords. These are all things that are not about America. They're about the world. And if we don't all take care of this planet together, we're all doomed. And so for America to, which has been a leader in these issues, to be a country that is pulled out and is undercutting and causing problems is what is so disturbing.
Okay, Anang, Mittal, let's pick up that last point that some estimates suggest that the number of undocumented Indians in the US may be way higher than the 18,000 that media reports, Bloomberg in particular, identify as India ready to repatriate. Now, that is something, Ambassador Sinha makes a good point, and Sushant does too. How is it our problem, those who want to leave India and become American citizens? But it is our problem if they continue to be Indian citizens who have entered illegally, and, images of mass deportation. And again, I know Sushant said, don't listen to what Trump says. Let's see what he does. Will he actually do something like this? We don't know. But he could, because his first 24 hours actually show that everything he said in his campaign, he's actually done. He didn't just say it. He's actually done it. So we should believe him.
Yes, you should believe him. There's a quaint saying in America for the last 8 years that a lot of people who take Trump literally don't take him seriously, and a lot of people who take him seriously don't take him literally. But he's shown with his executive orders this time around that he means business. This is not a first-term administration. This is not even a second-term administration, and that's why it's unique, because he has people now in his cabinet, in his administration, who know what they're doing, who know the ins and outs of the bureaucracy. And that's really his goal, is to reform the system that has been stratified, that has been ossified for so long, and that has allowed things, unconstitutional things like allowing illegal immigrants into the country to go on forever, and has benefited the Democrat side by sort of not enforcing the law, by not enforcing the borders. And that's really a lot of what a lot of these border security laws are about. So even this executive order on H-1B, it's not on H-1B, it's on birthright citizenship. So yes, it's understandable, because the 14th Amendment was designed to make sure that the former slaves after the Civil War had the complete rights as citizens. And that was again reaffirmed in an 1898 decision. So the question here is, if the executive order goes too far, because it also covers H-1B, it covers sort of legal immigrants, that's what people are commenting about. I think the larger result of that will be, again, this is the literally not seriously, seriously not literally part, that when it will get challenged in court.
Are you concerned?
I'm not concerned, because when it will get challenged in courts, it will most likely, the courts will enshrine, or they will clarify the issue that if you are an illegal immigrant, and that's the term, it's not undocumented, that's a Democrat term that was created in the last 10 years, they're illegal immigrants. If you're an illegal immigrant, you're coming here and then you're using your children's birth here in America to sort of anchor yourself to this country and sort of get yourself a path to citizenship. That's not fair to the H-1B people. That's not fair to people who are on the green card backlog. So I think that's really what this issue is about, and that's how it should be looked at by people. like I said, a lot of people
Okay.
take him literally, not seriously. And so you should take this seriously because it shows that he is serious about tackling illegal immigration.
Yes, but as I said, 22 American states have already, within hours of Trump becoming president, challenged this particular executive order. I have a feeling a lot of his other executive orders will also get pulled into the judicial system in the United States of America. Prasad is somebody who has a foot in both countries. You have family in India. You spend half and half of your time in India and the United States of America. That hyphenated identity of being an Indian American, I imagine, matters to you. Today we're talking about, and Sree is right, it's not retrospective, it's going forward. But imagine if somebody like Usha Vance's parents were to come to the US today on an H-1B visa. She's the daughter to a molecular biologist and a mechanical engineer, both from Andhra Pradesh. They came in as Indians into the US. Usha Vance is then born in the US and, of course, becomes a naturalized citizen. I don't know when her parents do, but the point is that they were Indians. They were Indian-born Indians who came to the US. Today, if Trump's order were to be taken literally, an Usha Vance would not be an American citizen. Today, I'm not saying this will apply to Usha Vance, an Usha Vance-like person. How does that make you feel?
Well, firstly, I think it's important to understand that this issue has nothing to do with H-1B. The issue of birthright citizenship actually emanates from the fact that a lot of illegals from South America, they actually pour into the country only because they can take advantage of the Birthright Citizenship Act, which is that they come illegally into the US, quickly produce a baby. Now, the baby, if not that very day, not in a few years, but once he or she turns 21, then legally can sponsor those parents to become American citizens. So it's a long-term investment these illegals make to take advantage of this birthright citizenship law. So what he's saying is, again, it pertains only to illegal immigrants, to stop and stem the inflow of illegal immigration, which now is an incentive.
But that's not true, right? If children to H-1B visa workers are born in America, they will not become American citizens. This
Correct.
is what I understand from his.
You're right. So it is one of
Sree
those.
wanted to come in.
So
Sree, you want to briefly interject? Sorry, Sree wants an interjection, Sree, and I'll let you come back to you, Prasad. Sree?
Sure. No, just to be clear, we know, just to be clear, we know so many stories of people who will tell you they were born here to their parents who were students studying in university here in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Those people, their children today will not be allowed to get birthright.
And also children of like H-1B workers working in, let's say, Silicon Valley. Like, he's basically arguing, Prasad, that if you're born in America, you don't automatically become an American citizen.
You're right. I agree with that. There is this unintended consequence that is being felt by the H-1B visa holders now. Let us not forget, the rest of the world has birthright citizenship right from the beginning. For example, in the UK or in Germany, if you go there on a work visa and you have a child, that child is not a citizen of that country automatically. You have to have either one parent already who is a citizen before your child can claim birthright citizenship. It has been America, as Anang correctly pointed out, the 14th Amendment was basically to protect the rights of the slaves who came into this country. It was to be fair to them that this was done. And when you say policy always has to be revisited. Economics changes countries, changes policies. Revising of policies is a very usual thing. And it is this person, Trump, who has actually taken the responsibility of doing it. He is one of the most, Barkha, I want to mention this. He is one of the most consistent, predictable politicians that America has ever seen.
How are you all saying
From
this? This is from Sushant onwards. Other than this part I don't get. You can like Trump, you can not like Trump, but which part of him is predictable?
Well, let me take the bragging rights further of being your first Mojo subscriber and invite everybody on Mojo Story to read and watch the videos of Trump when he had a different colored hair. His skin on his face was much tighter. He had bushy eyebrows. When he was a young man, probably in his first or second, there you go, thank you, first or second marriage, you will see videos where everything he said at that time is exactly what he says today. If we have forgotten those and we have not seen those videos only because he was not a politician, then that is our fault. But we cannot accuse him of being inconsistent. He is one of the most consistent, predictable politicians because he does what he says.
Okay, let me bring in a diplomat who will be able to talk about how diplomats may have to deal with him, and then I'll come to Sushant. Ambassador Sinha, do you agree with Sushant and Prasad that he's predictable? I mean, firstly, he was never a Republican, right? He was a New Yorker billionaire in with the same social set that he today despises. He was never a Republican conservative. I would argue with Prasad and say many of these politics have been embraced to cater to a base that he believes felt underrepresented by the political and social elite of the US. Do you believe that he's predictable? Like as a diplomat, I mean, what do you think Jay Shankar is thinking, sitting in the front row, smartly handled, doesn't rise for anything political except for the statement on the hostages. But there are going to be challenges ahead in how to ignore inflammatory rhetoric, because he certainly is an inflammatory or sometimes a loose talker.
Well, one must. I can't say that he has been consistent. I have not followed his career from the very beginning, but I've certainly followed his career since his first term. And I find that a number of policies that he initiated have now become conventional wisdom. That means they've been accepted quite widely. And one of these was, for example, that NATO members must increase the defense expenditure. They must take care of themselves. Putting China on the line. Now, okay, Obama had started some very mild policies to start to check China's rise as a rival to America, but it was actually Trump who did that, who put China on the mat. Then his sense about improving relations with Russia, that goes with our wisdom of foreign policy, that Russia is not exactly as villainous or as bad a country as some of these liberals in America make it out to be. So to that extent, you do find that Trump has changed American thinking to a certain extent. Now, whether he is predictable or not, that of course one has to see.
What would be India's concerns? What would be India's concerns? Before I go to Sushant, in particular, I imagine it would be trade and the migration question in particular. Is there anything else in geopolitics that you would worry about?
Well, I would like to ensure that America-US relations come to become a little more stable. The pressures that we are under right now, relations. The America-US relations, because we have in India, we generally have a greater faith in Russia than we
America-USSR. Oh, I see. America-Russia relations.
So America-Russia relations have to stabilize because we are under pressure today because of our relations with Russia. Now, we are not going to give up our relations with Russia. And I think I quite agree with people, although Russia has made a mistake in certain areas. But for us, the India-Russia relations is extremely important. And under the liberals, we were under pressure to break away from Russia. Now, if America-Russia relations stabilize because of Trump, then that is a good thing for us. At the same time, if China is put on the mat, China's trade policies and China's trade surplus with the US is high, it's with India, it's even higher in percentage terms. So if China is put on the mat for its trade policies, for its aggressive trade policies, then again, it benefits us. Because we can also now take action against the flooding of our market by Chinese goods.
Right.
On the issue of illegal immigration also, we are also victims of illegal immigration. So this idea that illegal immigrants must be allowed to enter. Now, Europe does these things very surreptitiously. Every year, about 7,000 illegal migrants drown in the seas because the Europeans just don't let them land in Europe. So in a sense, European policy is also the same as the American policy, except that the rhetoric is different. In the case of Trump, he speaks out what he says. But the fact is that if he takes action against illegal immigration, then we also can equally legitimately take action. Our concern with America would be that we should have to explain to them that we have similar interests, and our trade surplus is actually very small as compared to the problems that he has with other countries. And he should not target us simply because we're members of BRICS. As Sushant said, probably doesn't even know what BRICS stands for.
Yeah. Sushant, you opened the program by saying that there's some things that we have to have a thick skin about. What are some of those things, or what are some of those comments that you think are best ignored?
No, like, for example, Trump has a habit of, saying stuff that he's going to take action against India, that India has been very unfair, stuff like that. And then out here, the media circus starts. Nobody really gets into the details, the granular detail of what is being said, what how you need to react. And there's a knee-jerk reaction. It becomes a kind of a political football. देखो देखो मोदी को देखो उसने ट्रम्प ने बता दिया मोदी बड़ा दोस्त बन, that kind of stupidity happens out here. So I think we need to get around that. We should expect that some of this stuff is going to come from him, because that's part of how he deals with countries, basically to first push them against a wall and then try and negotiate with them. So let's not tilt at the windmills every time he opens his mouth. First. Secondly, I think we need to be very clear, Barkha, at least I am, that look, there are some issues which are purely American domestic politics. Migration is one of them. We are affected, tangentially.
Purely domestic? Is it purely domestic?
Yes, I said we are affected tangentially, in the sense that there'll be, I don't know, maybe 100,000, maybe 1 million Indians who have gone illegally, but I don't see how we can defend it. Somebody who has gone on an H-1B visa, has stayed out there for 15 years. Okay, the kid has been born out there, got educated out there, has lived all his life in America. India is not, some kind of a hellhole that the family can't come back and settle in India, right? I don't know where this damn thing is coming from. We are all 1.4 billion bloody Indians are living in India, many of them doing well out here. What is the problem with somebody who's born in America? Why can't he come back? Okay, he'll come back with a funny accent. So what? Most Indian public schools speak with that accent anyways, right? So they'll fit in very well. There's not a problem out here. Number one. Number two, how do we defend illegal immigration? Now, okay, the Democrats did what the Congress party used to do in the 70s and 80s. Allow a whole lot of guys from Bangladesh to come in, complete demographic transition in parts of Northeast, in Bengal, border districts of Bengal, other parts of Bihar and other places. Now the Americans are now, reacting to that kind of a thing. Now, frankly, Congress party did it because they thought it'll be their vote bank. The Democrats did it because they thought it'll be their vote bank. But, one look, Barkha, you keep going. I've just gone a couple of times, but you guys keep going to the US. There are gentlemen out here from the United States. Just look at the condition of the cities in the United States. Just look at how law and order has deteriorated. A beautiful city like San Francisco, from whatever we have seen of it, it's like worse than Selampur, right? So is this how you run a country? So there is a reaction out there. Now, these are internal to the United States. What I, as an Indian, am worried about is, number one, not that Trump is transactional. Transactional, I can deal with. Transactional means that I'll give him something and I'll get something in return. Okay. My problem with him is he's mercantilist, right? He wants balanced trade. Balanced trade in this day and age is like it's like an anachronism. Okay. You cannot have balanced trade. And as I think Ambassador Sinha very correctly said, India is not China, right? India is not draining the US by running massive surpluses against the US. India has maybe a 20% surplus in our overall trade. And that can very easily be balanced if you want to balance it, right? So we don't have a problem insofar as trade is concerned. Some of the tariffs which we levy, frankly speaking, we really need to look at our tariff regimes because those are crazy, right? Some of the way, I think Ambassador Sinha made that point, the way we are running our business, the kind of climate we have created, that anybody who manufactures in India today should get a Bharat Ratna. You give Bharat Ratna to all kinds of dead people, you might as well give it to the living businessman who is courageous enough, maybe give him a Paramveer Chakra, who are courageous enough and set up a manufacturing plant in India and undergo the extortion which happens from government agencies. The Inspector Raj is alive and kicking. Let's build India. Let's use this opportunity to invest in India, to bring business in India, to flourish people in India. And maybe, yes, the illegals can come back. The H1, listen, tell me something. The H1B visa guy goes to the US. He gets certain skills. He learns many new things. Why should he not come back and work out here and, scale up the kind?
I mean, he or she should, but it's their choice, right? We have to also create the environment.
It's also the choice of the government where they're going and living.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed on that. Yeah. So Sree, respond to that. How is this India's problem? Yes, it may be the problem of somebody looking to be an American citizen. Why is it India's problem? India will, at least from you grew up as the son of a diplomat, so you understand that diplomats and Indians are going to look at this as, okay, what's in it for us? Are our interests served? So are Indian interests disturbed in any way by Trump?
Well, some of the things have already been discussed. I would just
Yeah.
focus on the fact that we want India to do well, we want the US to do well, we want the world to do well. But no one's picking up on this idea of what's going to happen with the planet and the end of the climate accords. America pulling out of WHO, just as bird flu is launching in the US right now. Georgia has banned all poultry production and eggs and all of this. And Georgia is the largest producer, the state of Georgia in the US. And, they said that Trump, when everyone says he's so predictable, he said he's going to fight to bring down the prices of all of eggs and everything else. Not one of the things he has put on the table, these 100 executive orders or whatever he signed, is going to make any difference in the day-to-day lives of the people he voted for, who voted for him, looking for prices to fall, the economy to improve. Those are not going to help. In fact, he's promised tariffs on Mexico and Canada at 25% starting in February. That means the prices of things from avocado to maple syrup is going to go up here. So he has focused on renaming the Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of America. This is kind of petty, stupid thing, all the way to annexing the Panama Canal, taking over Greenland. When we say we want Russia-US relations to improve, Russia has put in his man in the US now, in the US government, and by condoning what's happened in Ukraine, as Trump will, as many people in India have condoned, that means what does that tell China about Taiwan, about parts of India that China may want to annex? So just this idea that whatever Trump does is some kind of will
in a
benefit.
silo.
Yeah,
Basically, you're saying what he does impacts the world, including India.
100%. And we should
also
care about that. We should
and
care
also
about
you shared in the chat, if you want to just talk about that, other countries that do offer birthright citizenship, before I take this to Prasad and Anang.
Sure. So there's a map that if your team can show it, you'll see that it's not just the US that somehow does it. Look at these. So everything in green has unrestricted or very few limits on birthright citizenship, and some of the other countries have restricted. So you can see that this is not just the US that does this. So that's important to keep in mind. And this idea that the term undocumented is something that came up in the last 10 years. It was first used in the 1960s. So I also agree that with Sushant, that a lot of the things we're talking about are domestic politics. So India won't pay attention. But I watch a lot of Indian television. We are not talking about the impact of the climate accords, the impact of WHO withdrawal. And we should care about these things. We focus on the political, we focus on the geopolitical, but not on these issues. These are existential crises for the planet that America is making worse. And Musk is someone who a lot of people admired because he would say the right things, now the extreme right things, but he would say the right things about the planet through the cars that the electric car movement that he really kickstarted and has done a good job with. But now he has supported every right-wing, dangerous position for the planet. Not a single thing that he's doing is going to help the planet. And that's the problem that we're not talking about.
Those are fair points, Prasad, that they're not the glamorous points to talk about. World Health Organization on the climate change, I know it's a more complex. Ambassador Sinha already said that India has been a very tough negotiator at the climate talks. It doesn't matter which government it's been, both Congress and BJP. There's an Indian position on the West penalizing emerging economies, for and putting the onus on countries like ours to basically wear the halo, carry the cross, and so on. But these are important issues.
No, I agree. They are important issues. I have a couple of points to make to start with what Sushant had mentioned about why not H-1B visa holders and Indians come back to India and take advantage of the opportunity. That is something that I believe in, and it's happening at home for me. My son was born here. He's a US citizen by birth, but he has chosen to be in India and take advantage of the opportunities that India offers. He refuses to come here, even for a week. So that is already happening. And why not? I have chosen to be here with my daughter. He has chosen to be there in India. So that is already happening at multiple levels. It is quite commonplace. I'm sure all of us here on this program agree that that is common. That's one. Second, now I go back again to the way Trump does business. He is the Sharad Pawar of American politics. He is pro-business. He sees the opportunity. And I say this with a lot of seriousness because Mr. Pawar has been in politics for a very, very long time, whereas Trump has entered politics just the last 10 years. So, it is a very...
I mean, nobody called Sharad Pawar predictable. Nobody's called Sharad Pawar predictable.
He actually is predictable. You know that you cannot bank on him to be always with the Congress. Every time you thought he was, he went and did the opposite. And we already know that, just that we don't want to believe that and use that as a consistent data point. So that is our problem if we feel he's not consistent. Same with Trump. And Trump is very pro-business. Like Mr. Pawar, he's very pro-business. If you have all these the tech bros, as they are called today. Yesterday, he announced a $500 billion investment with the tech bros. And you look at each of them who are there on the stage with him. You had Larry Ellison of Oracle. Oracle has huge investments and development centers in India. You look at Masa. Masa has huge investments in India. So both of them are going to take advantage of the investment they make here in the US and take advantage of what India offers to those investments as well. So that. And finally, last point about the Panama Canal. Panama Canal was funded by the US 100%. It was the US that built the Panama Canal. 36,000 Americans died in the process of constructing that canal. And today, China is operating the Panama Canal with tariffs and pass-through for the ships. That is nobody's business. And this man, he's a businessman. So he finds that to be absolutely unjust from a national security perspective as well as a revenue perspective. And that's why we all should take it over.
Okay, we have to start taking closing comments. I want to come to Anang now. One of the audience members in our stream, Saurabh Vashisht, this speaks to the argument that was made by Sree, who said that these new laws are essentially to stop brown and black people from entering America. The whites will get it anyway. Saurabh Vashisht says the US is ethnically a European nation. Asians have always been seen as unwelcome aliens. I'm just reading it out. You may or may not agree. From internment of Japanese in the Second World War to exclusion acts for the Chinese, Asians are unwelcome. Now, of course, Sree was not making the point using Asians in the way that it's used in America, which covers everybody from the Chinese and Japanese to Indians all in one bunch. He was making a point about racism. I know you're somebody who, if I remember correctly, grew up in Delhi. You were not born in the United States of America. You're somebody who became an American citizen, like Sree, like Prasad. How do you view this? There's one allegation that's made against the Indian community that Indians tend to think we were the good, just ko mil jata hai citizenship. That's the good immigrant. Anyone after us in the queue is the bad immigrant. What do you say?
Yeah, that's sadly a common sentiment in many Indians, especially the older uncles who will say, aaj to kisi ko bhi le jate hain America mein. So that's understandable. Status fights will always be there. People will always say that, as the joke in Northern Virginia, where my parents live, is if there's one Indian community group, then very soon there'll be two, right? Whether it's the Bengalis or the Agrawals or anybody. So we're always fighting amongst each other and fighting with everybody else as well. So that's very par on the course for us, that only we are the good guys, everybody else is the bad guy. But having said that, I've lived in this country for 25 years. I came here when I was 12 years old. I've never felt any kind of racism. I've never felt any kind of prejudice against me as an Indian or anybody, kind of somebody who's an outsider. I've lived in the Midwest. I've lived in on the coast as well, not on the West Coast, but on the East Coast for a long time. So having said that, I think, look, it's understandable that some of those, white nationalist, nativist sentiments are coming out on social media, and that's being taken for the sentiment of the entire Republican Party. That's not the case, in my opinion. But like I said, I think even these questions, who is an American? Who deserves to be an American? These are questions that have been part of America since its founding. Initially, America was only, the immigrants or the settlers from England, right? And then very quickly by Abraham Lincoln's time, even between that time, they had presidents with Dutch names, and Americans were going, who's this guy, with a Dutch name? Martin Van Buren. What's Van Buren? So these questions have always been, every generation deals with these questions in America, that, who is an American? Who can we count as one of us, and who can we not count as one of us? So having said that, I think, what President Trump is doing, what his policies are, in the predictable sense, he has been talking about them for many, many years. These are issues that the Democrats have ignored. These are issues that many non-Democrats who are in the elite have ignored, including the tech giants have ignored. So I think what he's doing is making sure that the American people's voice is being heard. Immigration is an issue. We have about 30 to maybe 20 to 30 million illegal immigrants, according to the numbers of the Republicans, at least. So that is, it's not just an Indian issue. It's not just a brown or black issue. It's also, it's a much larger issue than that. And to be fair, H-1B, 20% of H-1B are also people from Australia, from Canada, from the UK. So it's also affecting them. So this isn't a racist policy in any case. This is also affecting people from white countries.
I'll give the last word to Ambassador Sinha. Prasad did correct me, however, to say that he retains his Indian citizenship. He's a green card holder for 28 years. I just wanted to correct that. Ambassador Sinha, all in all, just if you had a closing sort of, on the good side, on the worrying side, what would it be?
Well, I would say that what impact America has on the American people is for the American people to worry about. They are the ones who have elected him. Internationally, I think there is a lot of worry for the friends of America. His first casualty was Justin Trudeau. Mexico is also a friend of America, and they are very worried. It's more than the enemies, it's the friends of America who are worried today. For India, I think it opens an opportunity, a small window of opportunity for its tariff policies, for its climate change policies, and also for its immigration policies. And we must take advantage of this, because the international pressure on India will be less over the next 4 years. We just have to deal with Trump and ensure that our relations with the US remain stable. Otherwise, as far as our own internal policies on tariff, immigration, and climate change are concerned, we can pursue those, and we should take this advantage of this opportunity that we have before one of these do-gooder Americans come back and the Europeans come back and they start enforcing climate change policies on everybody, and also other human rights policies, which puts us under pressure because of our own policy, whether right or wrong, that's a different matter.
Okay, before I give the closing word to Sushant, because I saw his hand go up, Sree also wanted to come in on the Panama Canal specifically. Sree, go ahead.
Yeah, and, by the way, I would say to the ambassador, why doesn't India use this as an opportunity to attack or put pressure on the US for its environmental policies, now that it's doing great damage to the environment again with these new withdrawals and
with
things?
The drill baby drill. Ambassador Sinha, you want to respond to that? That the stated policy is drill baby drill, which is, I guess, the kind of thing that Sushant needs.
We punish America.
You've got to ignore some of the language.
The dialogue has to change. The biggest emitter today is China, 3 times as much emissions as America has. So we have to change the cliche-ridden rhetoric of the climate dialogue.
I would say just about the Panama
Canal. Hang on. Anang has a point on the oil. Anang?
An issue, the pressure that was thank you. On the Russian issue, there was a lot of pressure by the Biden administration to, stop India from buying Russian oil, and the Indian response was, "Well, ab doge, will you give us the oil then that we need?" Yeah. And so that was an issue then. So yes, when Trump says drill baby drill, that's to India's benefit.
I'll just say about the Panama Canal. Yes, there were a lot of things said that are just not true. About less than 1,000 Americans died building the Panama Canal, and the Chinese that are involved.
So what Trump said was wrong. What Trump
Trump lies on a regular basis, and then we in the media and other people regurgitate it without fact checking on a regular basis, and that's a problem that everybody, including the Indian media, has to do a better job with.
Fair. I think that is fair. Sushant, closing thoughts?
Yeah, just 3 quick points, Barkha. One, look, Biden administration was good for India. Trump will be better. At least that's the expectation on a range of issues. And the advantage is that unlike the Biden administration, which was constantly sermonizing and, it had become grating, the kind of nonsense they used to spout all the time, At least that is not going to happen with Trump. At least we don't expect that. That is point number one. Point number two is, if you look at the cabinet in the Trump administration, there are a whole lot of people in that, Trump including, from the Secretary of State, the National Security Advisor, Tulsi Gabbard, a whole range of others who are well disposed towards India. So that's a great advantage we have. Look at the kind of pride of place which was also accorded to Dr. Jaishankar during the swearing in. Not many people would have been given that. The fact that the Secretary of State holds his first bilateral with Dr. Jaishankar, the Quad goes on stronger. So those are good things to happen, but there will be some pulls and pressures out there. That's the second point. And on the third point, I think we need to show a little bit of confidence in our own abilities, in our own businessmen. You know, Barkha, about the Indian businessman, it is said that the Indian Marwadi can buy from a Jew and sell to a Scot and still make a profit, right? I don't know, somewhere along the line, we seem to have lost that panache which we had of doing business, of trading. We've been manufacturers. We've lost that because of this goddamn license raj that we have imposed, the kind of nonsensical regulations that we have imposed. And I really wish that if Mr. Modi has to leave a legacy, he leaves a legacy of deregulation rather than over-regulation. There's just too much of government in India, and I think we really need to start getting rid of a lot of government. It does no good work, okay? It does nothing. You come to Gurgaon and you see how badly they botch it up, right? So we need less of government, and we need the government to unleash the creative energies of Indians, and we should deal with the Americans with a whole lot of confidence and with our own self-assuredness, rather than, constantly being on the being defensive, always wilting under pressure. Ki nahi yaar, pata nahi wo kya kar denge, usne kya bol diya. Let's not do that. The Indian businesses, you see these guys out here on your show, right? All of them are entrepreneurs who've done really well. There's no reason why we can't deal with the Americans with a whole lot of self-assuredness. So let's not have this, constant whining that we keep doing. Let's go with a whole lot of confidence. The Americans are normal people. They have their own style. We know how they deal with us. We can deal with them better. So I think we have good times to look forward to.
Good times, but also certainly, as the Chinese would say, interesting times. So good and interesting times certainly.
That keeps you and me in business.
I was just going to say it's good for us in the media and those of us who make it our business to analyze strategic affairs. Thank you so much, Sushant, Sareen, Ambassador Sinha, Anang, Prasad, and Sree. This has been such fun. And take care, everybody, and see you soon.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.